presenting the only podcast dedicated to the AHL's Colorado Eagles. This is the Colorado Eagles Tape-to-Tape podcast. Here are your hosts, CC Hawkley and Scott MacDonald.
Well, howdy. How we doing? This is the Colorado Eagles Tape-to-Tape podcast, episode number 6. Welcome. I am Chad Costello, and my co-host is Kevin MacDonald. And we are the Eagles alumni that are hosting the show today. But in all seriousness, as always, welcome to the show. Like I said, episode number 6. There we go.
We made it.
Yes. Last time I was like, episode number 5, and I went like that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I went like this. I went episode number 5, and it's like, well, I'm trying to double it when really we've only done 5 episodes. So
we'll get there eventually. But
well, we will. We're
a week away.
Yeah, just a week or so, or
over 8 away. Who knows?
Yeah, we've got this down. Yeah, we're off to a great start. So, but anyway, let's start at the beginning. Welcome again to the podcast. CC Hawkley here, Scott MacDonald. We've got a lot to talk about. It's been a month. We're airing this on October 16th, 2020. And boy, we are on the other side of a very busy NHL free agency weekend. And a lot of impact on the AHL level for the Colorado Avalanche and the Colorado Eagles. Boy, first things first, though, let's dive right into it. In the entry draft, that feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Yeah. This offseason is moving real quick.
Right? So it was only about a week ago, a little over a week ago now, from our recording date here, Tuesday, October 6th, the Avalanche with the 25th pick overall in the first round select defenseman Justin Barron. And he is, from what I've read up and from the scouting reports that I have seen, Scott, he's a fantastic, all-around defenseman.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, a lot of people say, Joe, again, he's as he does, he steals guys. And I think he might have gotten, maybe not the steal of the draft, but, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate to say, the blood clot issue may have benefited the Avalanche here. But, I mean, he was projected to be a top 15 guy in a lot of these early reports. And he was top 15 in North American skaters, and he slipped all the way to 25 with the Avalanche. And he's great. I mean, he's already big. He's a 6'2", 200-pound guy. He plays, a very similar style to what the Avs have been drafting, and Byram and Makar and those guys. But he's more of a stay-at-home defenseman. But he's not afraid to move the puck up, and I think he's going to fit very well. He can take his time developing. The Avs, obviously are pretty replete on defense right now. So who knows? 3 to 4 years, he's going to be a big part of that Avs top 6.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. He's on his 4th season with the Halifax Mooseheads, correct?
I think that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. He just turned. I want to say he just turned 19.
Mm-hmm.
So when would we expect to see him? I'm gonna imagine within a season or two, perhaps.
I mean, I would say it could be even longer. You got Byram, who knows if he's going to come. Next year it could be they may take their time on him. A lot of people are thinking it may be another season for Byram. So I think he's got to get in line. It could be, I would say, 2 to 3 years at least until we see him, and it kind of depends on how he recovers from his blood clot issue. He's still out right now. I know Halifax started their season, and I think when I talked to him, during the draft, the day of the draft on the Zoom call, he said he's probably still 2 to 3 weeks away from getting back on the ice. So again, the injury kind of might have slowed him down by a season or two, and that's okay. The Avs have plenty of time. They have a lot of defensemen that that are kind of coming up the pipeline, and they can take their time with Barrett. I think he's in a great position to do that.
Sure, and it's interesting. For some reason, what came to my head was the fact that Drew Brees, to kind of cross over into different sports here, but
sure.
When Drew Brees was on the then San Diego Chargers and he got hurt, and the Chargers kind of wrote him off for Phillip Rivers, and Brees went and tried out with the Dolphins and failed the physical, and that whole debacle, and then he goes and signs with New Orleans. The rest is history. The man is over 40. He's still playing. It's that just reminds me, just from what you said about Barron and his blood clot issues and everything like that, it's like that reminds me of the Drew Brees situation in the sense that you cannot count a guy out just because of the fact that he's got some lingering issues or things like that. And, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, was it, a year and a half that Connor Timmins sat out with concussion-related issues?
Yeah, 18 months, year and a half, yep.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, it's like it's kind of another Connor Timmins situation if you want to stay within the organization, within the sport.
Sure.
But yeah, it's you can never count a guy out in regards to, an ailment or a previous injury that may have hindered him and obviously caused his draft stock to drop. But, the article that I put up on the Sin Bin after Barron got drafted, a lot of fans were, and I kind of I didn't allude to it, I pointed to it. I said, look at the fans' excitement as to what the future of the defensive core of the Colorado Avalanche is. Like you said, you mentioned Byram, you mentioned Cale Makar, you still got Sam Girard.
Timmins.
On the defense now. Timmins, exactly. So, I mean, the future is so bright, I think a lot of folks got to wear shades, Scott.
I would agree. I mean, the Avs, they're building, quite the blue line, I think. And I think in 3 or 4 years when Barron finally hits the league and, you got, all those guys that we just mentioned plus him, I mean, it's going to be – watch out. They're building from the ground up and they're doing it right. And I think this Avs team is going to be really, really good on the back end in a few years. They already are.
Well, yeah. I mean, they continue to improve. When you've got one of your defensemen that's winning Rookie of the Year, and you've got another one coming up that's in Bowen Byram. It's the future. Like I said, the future's bright. So a lot of valid reason for both the Avs fan base and Eagles country to be excited for sure. But like I said, it feels like a lifetime ago. I've got to backtrack in my notes here, and we're talking Tuesday on the draft, and then Wednesday, the Avalanche extended qualifying offers to all of their restricted free agents. There wasn't one that they left out. So the Eagles that really were a concern on that list were Sheldon Dries. He ended up re-signing, and then AJ Greer, we'll get to him. He is no longer with the Avalanche organization. He was traded. And then Hunter Miska, which at this point, I believe he is still at this point in time, is he still a restricted free agent, or did that period pass and now he's unrestricted?
Yeah, that I'm not sure about. I know the Avs qualified him for sure. I don't know what the delay is necessarily on what's going on there, but I would expect him. I've been told by a few sources to expect him to re-sign with the team. So I don't know what exactly the holdup is, or maybe if they're looking into possibly trading his rights or whatever it might be. We'll see. But yeah, I guess he's the only one left out for now.
Yeah, I thought I read somewhere that I think October 12th was the cutoff. I see now I'm having a brain fart too, and I can't remember. But I think it was
pay attention to that, but I don't.
Oh, here we go. Qualifying offers expire on October 18th. So,
okay, we got some time.
Yeah. So as of recording, today's October 14th. As this airs, I mean, who knows? Miska may sign that qualifying offer, but watch it happen, because that's what happens to me in my podcast. You put it out
tomorrow morning. I guarantee you signing.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I'll have to put a little disclaimer or something in the liner notes or something like that. By the way, this was recorded on Wednesday, airing on Friday. Hunter Miska signed. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. So watch for that, fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of starting it off. First things first, and then of course NHL free agency weekend. July 1st, when it really was more. When did it start? October. See, now my dates are all screwed.
Yeah, I don't even.
October 10th? Was it that Friday?
Yeah, no, was it the 9th? Might have been the 9th. 9th or the 10th.
Yeah, I think it was the 9th, yes.
Yeah.
So October 9th became July 1st in free agent frenzy, as it were. So, yeah, like I said, it's just so much to cover. We've been, sitting dormant for a month waiting for news to hit, and then all of a sudden, bam, just so much news. Oh, so, here we go. Eagles news. So many contracts that have AHL repercussions.
Yep.
Let's get started with, Logan O'Connor. A little foreshadowing here. He as you predicted, and as you've said a number of times on the show, Scott, Logan O'Connor, it looks like he is more and more solidifying his place, and the Avalanche are solidifying his place either, well, like you predicted, on that third line. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead in the days and the timeline here. Matt Nieto, Long Beach native, Matt Nieto. You got to preface it with that. So signing with the San Jose Sharks in the Bay Area of California.
Back home. Yeah.
Going back home. So like you said, he you called it, my brother. You called it. Matt Nieto probably gone. Logan O'Connor, time to step up.
Yeah, I guess I could probably be the CEO of the Logan O'Connor fan club at this point. But I guess ever since he jumped onto the Eagles, man, I've just loved this guy. I love the way he plays. I love his attitude. He's a great guy, nice guy off the ice, and he just plays hard. You know, it could be the Eagles could be up 6-1 or whatever, and he's still going out there and he's laying out hits. He's trying his hardest to make it 7-1, and that's kind of what you want to see. And obviously, you know, Joe Sakic and his team and Coach Bednar, they all saw it in the playoffs, and a lot of national media saw it in the playoffs. But yeah, I think he was Colorado's best kept secret, but now no longer. We'll see. And yeah, I've been saying it for a while. It's like he's Nieto, but younger, faster, and better. So it just made sense to me that he would eventually be that guy to replace him, and it looks like we're certainly heading down that path.
Well, and the fact that he re-signed on September 18th, you know, I guess you could say it was kind of writing on the wall. Of course, he re-signed, I think, the day that the podcast dropped, or like right after. I don't think we mentioned it because I looked over my notes from the previous podcast, and I don't think we mentioned it was like right after, because it was a month ago, you know. Yeah. So I mean, that's the first thing on my list here, and you know, a little note above it. Of course, again, another former Eagle rather, in Ryan Graves. You know, he took his case, I guess you could say, to arbitration, and signed a 3-year deal and got some pretty good money out of it just this past Monday. Yeah.
So it was 3 years, like a little over $3 million AAV. I think that's a great deal. You know, he played. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the COVID-19 thing, and you know, the flat salary cap era that we're now living in is, you know, a lot of these guys, even like, let's go back to Nieto. He signed for $700,000, the league minimum. He was making almost $2 million for the Eagles last year, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast that we're living in right now. And you know, I think the Avs got, you know, quite the discount for Ryan Graves. He was their top pairing blue liner. And, you know, normally those guys sign for long term. Like, yes, he is young, and maybe they want to see a little more from him, but, you know, they signed $5-6 million easy, and they got him for just barely over $3 million. So that's a great deal, and I'm glad he's staying here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to lock him down, you know, a little over 3.1 million per year, and he's locked down through 2023. So I mean, you know, you've got him. You've got, you know, one more year on the entry level contract for Cale Makar. You know, you still got Ian Cole for another year. Like I said earlier, Sam Girard, and of course Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
And another defenseman that we'll get to here in a second. Again, gosh, it's just so hard not to. It's just so hard not to jump ahead.
We're talking about dozens of players at this point.
It's so true with as much re-signings and trades. Like I was, you know, the Avalanche were in the market, quote unquote, for Taylor Hall. There was rumblings. Okay, they're interested. They're not interested. Taylor Hall ends up signing with Buffalo, but the Avalanche still got a winning grade and a winning percentage in their free agency and kind of their acquisition report card, as it were. Yeah. So, yeah, there's just so much stuff to cover. So, again, free agency beginning officially on Friday, October 9th. I have it 8th here in my notes, but no, that's not right. The 8th was Thursday. October 9th was Friday. So, yeah, I don't want to say that again. But right off the get, you had the Avs' first signing in Mika Salomaki, who kind of bounced around last season. He was with the Milwaukee Admirals and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I tried to kind of gauge our Sin Bin Marley's correspondent, Zach Power, and he's like, well, I didn't really get to see a lot of him because, you know, once he went over to Toronto, he only was there for a handful of games, and then, you know, COVID-19 nixed the AHL season. But Scott, have you gotten a chance to kind of take a deeper look into Salomaki at all?
I mean, I've watched a little bit of his film. I'll tell you, just not even just Salomaki. He's probably maybe the biggest guy that they signed. But yeah, the Eagles obviously had a game plan going into this thing, and they wanted some big boys. And Salomaki kind of leads the charge. He's only 5'11", but like 210 pounds. So he's a hulking winger that he plays physical. He can score some goals. He's a little light on his feet, but I think it's clear that the Avs and the Eagles kind of wanted to go a little more physical with their AHL team, and obviously signed a few more older guys too, trying to teach those young guys down in Eagles country, I guess.
Yeah, that's so important, to have kind of the more veteran guys. I think that's also why the Avalanche probably locked up Jason Magna to a 1-year, 2-way contract.
Yeah.
Again, spoiler alert, jumping ahead a little bit, but we're talking about veteran presence, veteran leadership. Salomaki is 27, which I think it's not ancient by any means. It's
by AHL standards though. Yeah, it's quite old. It's like 18 to 22-year-olds mostly, but
right. Yeah, I mean it's still a developmental league. It's still the top shelf of the developmental portion of minor league hockey. But yeah, I mean it's still. I mean, you look at some of the guys. Average age is 24.3 amongst non-roster forwards, as I'm looking at right here, on Avalanche contracts that are going to be probably playing in Loveland next season. But to go back to kind of what we were talking about, again, this is just kind of ping-ponging all over the place, and I kind of forgive. I mean, I'm trying to be a little more organized here, so forgive me, viewers and listeners. But we're gonna keep it copacetic here. We're gonna keep it, as organized as we can. So hang tight. Gathering my thoughts here. Last episode or a couple episodes, I can't remember which one, but we mentioned guys like a Cody Bass, like a Cale Kessie. And, I kind of brought up the fact that the Eagles needed to kind of acquire more of that toughness and that tough character. And they definitely did it. Again, to jump to a trade that the Avalanche did, and I'm kind of, leapfrogging a few of my bullet points here, but Brandon Saad and Dennis Gilbert, they trade within the division. They acquire Saad and Gilbert from the Blackhawks. They trade away Zadorov and Anton Lindholm. So there goes an Eagles defenseman in Lindholm, heading to the Blackhawks organization, probably going to play with the Ice Hogs for most of next season, should it occur. But I reached out again. I always gauge my correspondence in the markets that I can.
Yeah.
John Fromme, he covers the Rockford Ice Hogs. He is very familiar with Dennis Gilbert, and he said that he's not afraid to drop the gloves. And you want to talk about increasing your aggressiveness and increasing your toughness, and just guys that are willing to get down to the nitty gritty and get in the corners. Dennis Gilbert's one of those guys. No pun meant by the other podcast that I do. But no, Gilbert's a gamer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, the Eagles went big, they went physical, they went hard, and I'm into it. Yeah, I think it was episode 4 or 5, whatever it was. We did talk about that, how it's kind of important to even look at the Avs in the playoffs. They got beat up by teams like Dallas, and it's important, especially when you get into the deeper into the playoffs. The game's hockey's a physical game. That's just the nature of it. And I think the Eagles were a little small, and not so stout, and I think that kind of at times got them into a little bit of trouble. And then they bring in guys like Salomaki, who's a 209-pound winger who can throw the body around. And yeah, like you said, Dennis Gilbert, he's that stay-at-home defenseman that's not afraid to drop the gloves and not afraid to mix it up in the corners and throw a few cross checks in front of the net to get out of the goalie's way or whatever. And I mean, that's what I think you need, especially maybe not so much in the regular season. I mean, you need it always, but to get deeper into these playoffs, you gotta beat around your opponent a little bit. And I think the Eagles certainly improved on that. And I guess we'll see if there is a season next year. I think we'll see that they might make a deep run here. Right.
And, I think with as much success as the Eagles had at the ECHL level before jumping to the AHL, that's something I definitely noticed in covering the Eagles in their final playoff run. After the Steelheads got eliminated, I covered the Eagles, and I noticed that they just weren't afraid to, guys like a Gabriel Verpass that was willing to mix it up and to really kind of be an agitator. And, it's the reason I was looking at my phone here just a second ago was, I was looking back at John Fromey's quote when I asked him about Dennis Gilbert. He says, he provides some size and some defense. He's 6'2". He's listed here as at 216. Definitely a stout boy.
Big man. Yeah.
Big man. But he isn't. John said he isn't going to generate a lot of offense. Which if you're kind of in the tough guy role, you don't often do that. Right. Unless you're kind of a Cale Kessie type, which he could do a little bit of everything at the ECHL level anyway. Yeah. But, Gilbert uses his size to deliver hits and make for trouble in the corners. See, told you, in the corners.
There you go. All right.
Verbatim from John. Always ready to drop the gloves. At 23, he may be able to work on his positioning and be a solid third-pairing player at the NHL level. There you go, that toughness that we talked about that the Avalanche needed against a rough and tumble team like the Stars. Probably works best with a more skilled puck mover, though I thought his passing improved a lot in Rockford. So you've got a young guy. Doesn't necessarily bring like the veteran aspect like a Salamaki, but again, you've got that toughness, you've got that aggressiveness, and you've got that willingness to drop the gloves and I would assume protect your elite skill players like a Martin Kaut, or if we see him in Eagles country next year, a Logan O'Connor. If.
Yeah, exactly. It's important. I think the game of hockey. I think what we were talking about a few episodes was like the goon character, and how that's kind of making his way out of hockey. It's more of like an 80s, 90s kind of style of hockey, and now we're starting to put the onus on like the more fast physical skill or fast and skilled players, like more offensively dynamic players. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like hockey's a very physical sport, and you saw the Avs. Like they're not the biggest team, but they're fast and they're skilled, and Dallas is an old and slow team, but they play physical, and they were able to beat the Avalanche. I think that's just kind of like right there. It's just further proof of why you kind of need that style of play in some capacity. And I think the Eagles definitely improved in that area. And then it starts with Gilbert. I like his size. I like his ability to protect in the players, and especially in the front of the net. I think he'll get those guys out of the front in the crease, and I think that's a huge trade. Saad is probably he's the main guy, the marquee player of that trade. But I think in Eagles country they're gonna love Dennis Gilbert.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I could focus on the trade that brought like I alluded to earlier in regards to a defenseman, a Devin Tays, to the Avalanche from the New York Islanders for Avs threw a couple second round picks their way for 21 and 22, but that's again, it's the Colorado Eagles podcast, and I want to focus more on the Eagles stuff, of course. Yep. But I mean, there's been I forgot to mention this at the beginning. There's been so much bleed over these past 5 first episodes that we've had because of the fact that you've had a number of Eagles guys and prospects that played on the Avalanche, that played in the playoffs, and for sure you got to cover that firsthand. But now it's like free agency hit, a number of trades hit, and there's just so many AHL level.
Yeah. Mostly Eagles moves. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this worked out perfectly. But moving on to the next point, you want to talk about I mentioned Sheldon Dries. He re-signed 1 year, 2-way deal. $700,000 league minimum. Pretty standard 2-way contract for for pretty much any player. You'll see a 2-year deal occasionally sprinkled in here and there, but a lot of the Avalanche guys I noticed were on 1 year 2-way deals that are going to be playing with the Eagles. Like I said, Dries re-signing, and then also talking about the New York Islanders again. Kyle Burrows, the captain of the Bridgeport Sound Tigers last season, in the New York Islanders affiliation tree there in the AHL, getting traded for AJ Greer, who you have said that he was probably on his way out the door. Yeah.
No, I mean, I've seen that one coming for a while. It's just, he's a high pick by the Avs. Was it 2015 second rounder, something like that? But it was just, it became increasingly clear as the seasons rolled along. He was great in the AHL. Eagles country loved him. A lot of jerseys sprinkled throughout Budweiser Event Center. But it's just he doesn't fit the style of play that the Avs were kind of moving towards. And maybe in 2015 when they drafted him, that was they were kind of looking for that guy. But quickly when we started, McKinnon started breaking out, and then they got Cale Makar, and they started building their team around those like more offensively dynamic guys. It was very clear that just Greer was not going to last unless he wanted to be a full-time Colorado Eagle player. And then Joe Sakic in the Zoom conference kind of talked about that. He's like, I wish AJ nothing but the best, but he wanted an opportunity. They offered him to stay in Loveland, but he said he wanted to like go somewhere else and hopefully get an opportunity to play elsewhere and get a shot at the NHL. And we'll see. I wish him nothing but the best in New York, and I think Eagles country's going to miss him. He's a great guy, and there he goes. But I think the Avs and the Eagles got a little better without him.
Yeah, and it's always tough to see a guy go. I know I saw your post on Twitter, and just establishing a rapport with them and really getting to know him on a deeper level through your interviews and everything like that. And I think that's, for us as correspondents, I think that's the tough part, is when you see a guy like an AJ Greer that you've covered, that you've dealt with on a on a level like that, and then you see him get shipped off elsewhere. I can say the same for a guy like Philippe DeRosier. Just signed a contract today.
Florida,
with Florida, and I can't be anything but happy for the guy. Covering him for the year, well, for 2 years technically. I mean, he did come back down for 18-19 for a little bit, but he was mainly with the Texas Stars. But you gotta, I mean, anybody that you cover in minor league hockey, you can't help but wish the best, whether they're in an Avalanche or an Eagles jersey or elsewhere. And with Greer heading over to the Islanders and Kyle Burroughs heading over to the Eagles organization, Burroughs is going to bring that leadership aspect and that leadership quality. Obviously, a guy that's got a C on their chest and comes over to your organization. It's just going to be a good thing. So, I mean, I can't really put it any more succinctly than that. But
again, I think he was a fan favorite for sure. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and that's kind of the AHL. At the end of the day, is a developmental league, and whether that means you kind of don't want to see these guys stay. You don't want to cover them for too long. You want to see them graduate to the NHL, or maybe they get traded or whatever it is, take an opportunity elsewhere. But that's kind of the point. And it sucks seeing these guys go, but it's a business. And Kyle Burroughs, I think he's gonna bring a lot to the back end. The Eagles lost a few defensemen, whether it's Connaughton or Lindholm back in Chicago, and maybe we'll see Connor Timmins in an Avs sweater next year. So it was obvious that they're going for some defensemen, and I mean there's none better than getting a captain and a defenseman and getting that leadership to you lost Mark Alter or whatever, and I think Burroughs is gonna bring a lot more than what AJ Greer was able to bring to the Eagles.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when I see players get traded around, talking about kind of to stay on Burroughs, but to kind of pivot to his contract situation. It's always interesting to me when the signing rights get traded.
Yeah.
And you've got basically a restricted free agent that you're trading the rights to, but now the Avalanche have until the 18th to lock up Burroughs. And obviously, I don't think there's any indication that the Avalanche don't try to lock him up, and he's not going to sign with the Avs. I mean, it's a great organization and everything like that, but I just wanted to throw this out there just kind of as a little sidebar, Scott. But in regards to, restricted free agents getting their rights traded, do you remember anything off the top of your head? I sure don't, where a restricted free agent's rights was traded, but they just let the clock run out essentially and then become an unrestricted free agent and sign elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it does happen, maybe more often than you think, because I think a lot of it, especially in today's day and age, the flat salary cap thing, they're trying to dump contracts, and maybe these guys are demanding some money. So, whether it's a team has, plenty of defensemen or whatever, and like they know this guy wants to sign for a lot of money, maybe you trade their rights and then you're kind of just dumping the contract. But yeah, I couldn't tell you an exact time or an instance when that happened, but I'm sure it happens probably more often. It just goes under the radar, I think, because they're obviously not signing for the team, so no one really cares. But
sure, I think the media and the press would be on that pretty quickly if a player had their rights traded to a team and they're like, well, no, I don't want to sign there, I mean, it's a little different, but when Eric Lindros got drafted by the Quebec Nordiques, and he's like, well, I'm not going to play for them. I don't want to sign for that organization.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, you find out Eric confesses it's because of how the organization was run. And that's why he didn't want to play for them. He said it had nothing to do with the city of Quebec or anything like that, but it was just because he says if so-and-so is owning the organization, I forget who the owner was back then. I know it wasn't LaCroix. Boy, my sucks. Okay. So, yeah, but in kind of the same aspect where he was drafted and his rights were owned by Quebec, and then Quebec, traded Lindros away and everything like that, got, Hall of the Century, and the rest is history. 2 Stanley Cups for Colorado, et cetera, et cetera. But I would assume it'd be the same thing for like a restricted free agent and just letting their time run out to go to, to go into unrestricted free agency.
Yeah.
Thanks for entertaining that caveat. I appreciate that, Scott. But,
it needed to be said.
Hey, I mean, it was just kind of something off the top of my head. I'm like, that's an interesting situation. So half an hour into our conversation, we're about halfway down this acquisitions list. So we'll try to keep banging it out. If we go a little over 45 minutes, I think the fans will stick with us because we got a lot to cover and we have a lot to offer. So hang with us, guys. Wow, I have Sheldon Dries on here like 3 times on my notes. I guess subconsciously I'm like, all right, got to mention Sheldon Dries. He re-signed. Hey, did I mention he re-signed? Yeah, he re-signed.
Yeah, 4 times.
Yeah, 4 times. But yeah, Jason Magna, kind of an interesting acquisition, especially because, like I said in my little teaser video on Twitter a couple days ago, where does Michael Joly fall into all this? Because with you re-signing Jason Magna, I mean, you've got a number of forwards that are coming back, and it looks like Joly is getting more and more edged out with a lot of these signings by the Avalanche and by the Eagles organization as well with their AHL contracts. I mean, your thoughts on that, Scott?
Yeah, no, it's a bummer. He's another fan favorite. You got AJ Greer, you got Joly, did all the things for the Eagles back in the ECHL days.
For
Won
sure.
a couple Stanley Cups. I mean, it's awesome, but it's becoming increasingly apparent that Joly's days are probably numbered. I'm not even sure he got offered anything, or maybe we'll see in the coming days he signed with an ECHL team or maybe another AHL team, but I don't think it's going to be with the Eagles. And that's they brought in a lot of forwards, and I just don't see where he fits at this point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's again. I think it's the last vestige. I mean, you've got Travis Barron, no relation to, Justin, which I also wrote about in the article there. And oddly enough, another random point, Charlie Girard signed with the Eagles, no relation to Sam. So you've got matching last names in the Eagles and Avs organization, Charlie and Sam Girard, Justin and Travis Barron, no relation to any of them. So, but anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there for those who didn't know. There's no relation between those folks within the organization. So, but yeah, you've got this bridge between the ECHL days and the AHL days, and Joly has served well as a fourth liner in the AHL. Didn't dip down into with the Utah Grizzlies in his 2 seasons with the Colorado Eagles. I don't think. I'll have to double check that, but
I don't think so either. No.
So yeah, I mean, for him to go, I mean, yeah, he's only 25 years old, so he's getting up there in regards to prospect age and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, looking at the stats here, he contributed 30 points in 47 games his first season in the AHL, and then 19 points in 42 games. Slight drop off, but not too bad for a fourth liner.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either, because I mean he plays the exact way that that Joe Sakic likes. He's that fast, skilled guy. He's probably maybe the fastest guy on the Eagles, or has been the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
He contributes a lot to the offense. He's a fan favorite. I mean, why not just throw the league minimum contract at him and let him stay here? I think he makes the Eagles better, and he adds to the offense in a lot of ways. And I don't see why they're not extending him an offer, but. I'm obviously not Joe Sakic or any of those guys, Craig Billington, GM for the Eagles, but I mean, I would do it. I think a lot of the fans would do it, but that's why, we're on this side of the ice and they're on that side of the ice. That's just how it goes.
Well, and the Eagles themselves might try. Obviously, like I mentioned, with Magna getting an NHL contract, a two-way NHL contract, that's a little bit different story than, a guy like a Michael Jolie getting an AHL contract. And who knows? Maybe he got an offer for a two-way AHL contract, and he didn't like that. He's probably at the point of his career where, I've played 2 seasons at the AHL level. I've proven that I can produce points at this level, even as a fourth liner, and not be, like a 5-point, 10-point plug, on the fourth line there, and or dipping back down into the ECHL, which I also think is pretty impressive. But yeah, it's really hard to say with intentions and things like that why Michael Jolie hasn't popped up on the feed in social media in regards to, okay, well, this is what's happening, or this is where contract talks are, or anything, especially with how well rooted he is within the Eagles organization. Like you said. But I think another, the writing may be on the wall for Michael Jolie, but another guy that is most certainly not coming back next season is former captain Mark Alt. He signed a contract with the Los Angeles Kings organization. You will probably see him with the Ontario Reign next season, should it occur. So he will very likely. Oh yeah, it'll be interesting. He'll very likely be back in Loveland, but just wearing a different uniform. And I have no doubt that the fans they'll give him that cheer, but obviously he's wearing a different sweater, so it's going to be, all bets are off once you got another team sweater on. But yeah, exactly. We talked about this as well, that because of contract signings and the way that things were going, that Alt was probably going to be another one of those odd men out, along with AJ Greer and potentially Michael Jolie.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I guess it's just about roster turnover, trying to find different skill sets to help develop these guys. And, obviously Joe and his team went after some different veterans. And they're trying to switch up the vibe, if you will, in Loveland. And, it sucks. Like I enjoyed talking to Mark Alt. I thought he was a great guy, great captain. Yeah. The locker room loved him. The fans loved him. And he's a great guy in the community too. So it's sad to see him go, but I'm glad, he's one of those guys that got a chance elsewhere. I'm glad the LA Kings gave him a shot, saw what he's capable of doing, and, he's going somewhere. Because you got, a lot of guys, especially, like I've been saying a few times now, the flat salary cap era, that deserve contracts for sure, 100%, but there's just no money for him. So I'm glad he's not out on the streets and he got another gig. Good for him, but we're gonna miss him in Eagles country, that's for sure.
Yeah. Personally, the few games that I covered for the Eagles, one of them was Faith and Family Night, and it was really neat to see Mark Alt and Hunter Miska to skate out to center ice and to kind of circle up and to lead some of the Eagles fan base in prayer. I thought it was a really cool thing for the Eagles to engage in, and especially for Alt to spearhead. And you can tell that it was genuine. Like, it wasn't an act. It wasn't something that he felt put upon to do or anything like that as the captain. You could tell that he was, genuinely going out there. And like you said, just genuinely a nice guy. So the Kings organization and the Ontario Reign, more than likely, yeah, they're getting a quality dude both on and off the ice. And, yeah, it's just, again, flat salary cap era. What can you say? But I got to backtrack a little here because I've been ping-ponging all over the place, like I've said a number of times already. But another guy that the Eagles signed was Michael Vecchione. Did I say that right?
That's a good question. I was hoping you knew. I was going to say Vecchione, but
depending if it's anglicized or anything. I know my Italian mother is would slap the taste out of my mouth if she heard me pronounce that. No, she's a wonderful woman. All love. No slapping of the face going on here. But yeah, me being so far removed from speaking Italian or anything. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, played for the San Antonio Rampage last season. Not necessarily, bound to the same club as they moved to Henderson and become the Vegas Golden Knights affiliate. So he quality centerman, 27 years old, veteran presence in that locker room. Your thoughts on that?
He's great. I think the Eagles brought in a lot of wingers, a lot of forwards, but they, maybe not so offensively, gifted or dynamic, kind of more just like the physical guys. But I like the game that Vecchione brings. He scored 21 goals with San Antonio last year, and
oh yeah,
he hasn't scored any fewer than 15 in his last three seasons in the AHL. And yeah, I think that's big, especially when, we'll talk about Michael Jolie. You're losing those guys, or possibly a Martin Cowd, and AJ Greer potted quite a few goals last year too. So I think they did a good job replacing some goal scoring by bringing in Michael, we'll call him.
Bringing in the former San Antonio Rampage centerman.
Right.
Yeah. Michael what? Michael.
Yeah. Big Mike.
Big Mike. Mikey V. Playing with the C, centerman. Yeah, that's me making it as awkward as possible. But so I think that's it in regards to signings and acquisitions. And yeah, I guess what I wanted to do, and this wasn't on the outline that I initially sent Scott here, but I kind of wanted to at least relax.
Throw me curveballs. I'm not ready. I'm not that smart.
You are super smart. I read your articles on
Colorado
Hockey Now. You're an intelligent dude.
I feel the same about you. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I wouldn't have invited you to co-host this with me if I didn't think you were smart. So Love Fest over. It was a brief Love Fest, but all the more validation.
It to be heard. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But kind of what I wanted to do. And it's a little bit easier on the defensive end of thing because you have a number of guys on two-way contracts that are probably going to be playing with the Utah Grizzlies next season. But for the forwards, I kind of went down, new signings and things like that. There's a ample amount of forwards. And I know that like a Sheldon Dries played with, TJ Tynan last year, and I know he's still under contract. But there's just a number of guys that are versatile. They can play center, or they can play right wing. They can play center, or they can play left wing. And so it's really hard to kind of, have this conjecture of who is going to play on which line. But, just looking at the forwards and everything, and this is just a very, very rough draft of what I was thinking.
Sure.
Because, it's just so hard to predict this kind of thing. But first line, I had Shane Bowers, TJ Tynan, and Martin Kaut. Second line, I had Sheldon Dries, Mikey V, as we call him, and Salamaki. I kind of took handedness into this as well, just which hand, the guys play with this. I know that's not the end-all, be-all, because there's going to be, some different things here. And there goes my alarm. Sorry about that. But and my alarm goes off same time every night just to kind of say, hey, get ready for bed. It's my bad. But Sheldon Dries, Mikey V, Salamaki. Third line, Jason Magna, Jason Wagner, who I thought really could, deserve the bump up from the end of the season that he had in the March and everything like that. Sure. Getting called up from the Grizzlies. And then Kiefer Sherwood. That's another guy we didn't talk about. Signing that Kiefer Sherwood came in.
San Diego Gulls. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like so, staying within the division and everything. Real quick, do you have anything to add on Sherwood?
Not too much. I think he's just another goal scorer. Like we were talking about Mikey V. I think the Eagles brought in some talent. I think he scored. I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say it, but I want to say it was like 20-something goals, 20-plus goals last year for the Gulls.
He scored.
But I think he was like
16, 23 points.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, maybe so I'm thinking. But I think he was like second on the goals in goal scoring. So hey, it doesn't hurt to add as many goal scorers as you can. I think they did a good job there.
And another quality forward that can also double as a centerman, but sure. Right-handed guy that can be a right winger if need be. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he is on my third line for the Eagles. And then you've also got two-way contract guy in Joe Wegworth, and then Cal Burke, the rookie coming in, and then Henry obviously a fourth line stalwart last season. I think he stays on that fourth line. But I just, like I said, just looking at the list of signings and things like that, and comparing it with who was on the Eagles last season, which there's not going to be a whole lot of a whole lot of bleed over and everything like that, and
Right.
I don't know guys that signed 2-year deals with the Eagles and who stays and who goes, but I mean, how does just off the top of your head hearing that, gosh, I wish I had a neat little graphic for you to kind of gaze at.
Yeah.
But Bowers, Tyne, and Kaut first line.
I love that first line. And I actually tried. I tried to do that too, what you just did.
Sure.
Just for fun, just to try to it's fun to try to make up lines, but I just couldn't. Yeah, you see so many just guys that play two positions. Coach Cronin loves to kind of shuffle up the lines a lot. Like we saw, like Shane Bowers, prime example last year. He's a natural centerman, but he moved him over to the wing, and he exploded. He did a lot better. So who knows? Maybe we'll see him, back on the wing. And I think it's always a feeling out period. There was a lot of turnover on this year. I think the first month or so, there's always kind of some growing pains, and you got to find those combos that you like, and it should be interesting. But yeah, back to the point. I like that first line. That's all the Avs, like big guys, and that's a highly offensively talented line. That'd be a solid first line, solid goal producing line.
Yeah, and I had Logan O'Connor kind of in my bank of players, but with the conversations we've had, you kind of sold me on the fact that he's probably not going to be wearing an Eagle sweater at all next season.
Yeah. I mean, it is important to note though, like he is, I guess his contract, I think it's a two-way his first year, one-way his second year. So I mean, Joe and his team are kind of leaving it. He's got to still win his position, I guess, and he might. I could see him and Martin Kaut kind of flip-flopping, going from AHL to NHL next year, but.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the second year he's going to be a full-time guy, but I think, as CEO of the Logan O'Connor fan club, I'm saying he's going to be a full-time fourth liner next year. He plays 60-plus games.
Get the business cards made.
Yeah, dude, I'm making T-shirts.
Making T-shirts.
I'll talk to the Eagles about branding it. We'll get it done.
There you go. Scott MacDonald of Colorado Hockey Now and the Logan O'Connor fan club and hype train.
Yeah.
So, conductor's hat for that hype train for sure. Dude.
No doubt about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's so easy to conjecture. So, I mean, yeah, I would ask you about the other lines, but again, it's just kind of up in the air right now.
Middle six, you never know. You may as well not even try to venture a guess. But
yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you did. You tried it, because I couldn't even. I got like through the first line. I was like, I don't know.
It's tough to say. I mean, I just go off of handedness and everything, and that's not always a good indicator of chemistry, especially if you don't know how these guys are going to interact. Putting
right.
A guy that's coming over from a different team, and Mikey V and Mika Salamaki. Salamaki. Yeah, just the same Finnish issue I have with Vecchione. But yeah, anyway, so. That's our best guess, and we knew that we weren't going to have so many. We knew that we were going to have a lot of things to talk about this episode. So I'm glad that Scott put it out there a couple days ago. Hey, we got any questions? We asked the feed, and there were no questions, because hopefully the fans were like, okay, we know they're going to cover it. We know there's a lot to cover, and kind of got the Michael Jolie thing from. Forgetting the gentleman, last name Moore, I think, on social media about Michael Jolie. So it wasn't directly related to the podcast, but definitely something to address.
To talk about for sure.
Yeah,
I'll be very interested in that. I think Eagles country would love him back. I think they're gonna be really sad if he doesn't come back, and I hope he gets a gig, whether it's with the Eagles or somewhere else. He definitely deserves a shot, but that's just how it is. And the year 2020, this fantastic year that it's been. It's ruining dreams left and right. So,
gosh.
Yep.
Oh, man. Well, hey, 49 minutes into it, not too shabby. Of course, there's going to be the intro and the outro roll, which will add a little bit of time. But, hey, with as much as has happened, I'll take it. I will take that. It's not a hard and fast rule by any means. We try and stick to it, though. And, yeah, we covered it all. And, Yeah, mid-November. Hopefully the AHL is going to start same time as the NHL does in January, as Gary Bettman said before the NHL Entry Draft, that the NHL will start as close to January, the beginning of January, with the Winter Classic being the first game, and we'll go from there. But mid-November, we'll get a little more of an idea.
Yeah.
Rosters congealing and things like that. So, and you'll probably see some more AHL contracts in regards to one-way contracts on the AHL level and two-way. So we'll hopefully and probably see those announcements, and we'll talk about it our next episode in mid-November, episode number 7. Número 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look it up.
So that's it. It's episode 6 is in the books. And Scott, I mean, you see the wonderful ticker, kind of giving our Twitter handles there. Me at Sinbin Eagles, Scott at Off Scott Free. That O at the beginning is a 0.
0, yeah.
Off Scott Free. So Scott, as always, tell the people where they can read your work.
Well, like we just said, at Off Scott Free, I post a lot there, just about every day. Not just about every day. I post multiple times a day. I like to talk hockey. I like to interact with people. But you can find my work at coloradohockeynow.com. I post there a few times a week too, and I hope to see you there.
And me, I'm CC Hawkley. I write for the Sinbin.net, and I'm trying to work on a Utah Grizzlies article. They re-signed Christian Horn. He only played one game with the Grizzlies last season. That was up in Rapid City, and he scored the final goal for the Grizzlies in the 2019-20 ECHL season, unbeknownst to everyone at the time.
You're right.
It was a 7-4 score fest up in Rapid City, South Dakota, and Christian Horn got that 7th one. So I'm trying to get that article written. It's kind of hard when you got transactions and a team of people and correspondents AHL-wise to, delegate tasks and talk with and mentor and all that good stuff. And I'm all about it. I love being a teacher. I love being a mentor. I love being an editor for the Sinbin. So, but I'm going to try and get that Christian Horn article out in the next few days. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, once again, for Scott MacDonald, my name is CC Hawkley. This has been the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast, episode number 6. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Sinbin on YouTube to catch all our videos. And you can find this podcast on pretty much any podcast platform, Apple, Google, Stitcher, etc., etc., etc. We're even on iHeartRadio now. So check us out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And in the meantime, have a good one.
We'll see you soon. Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
You've been listening to the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. For the latest news on the Eagles, the American Hockey League, and the rest of minor league hockey, visit thesinbin.net or download the Sinbin app for Apple and Android devices.